I was thinking about it, So many people sit there and ask, well, they're suffering with physical pain, financial pain, all this, right? And they ask why God allows it. First off, He doesn't. We suffer because of the cruelty of our fellow man. People are homeless, starving. God didn't do it. The people we elected as world leaders did it. We, the people, did it. So when you see a homeless person and you think, why does God allow this? He doesn't. He's not allowing it. We are. People say, why is it we suffer? Why do so many of us suffer in pain, physical pain? Well, I pray to God and He doesn't heal me. It reminds me of a couple situations. One, the series The Chosen reminded me told me of something I didn't know. But Jesus approaches James, one of his disciples, who has physical pain, limps around, and has to use a walking stick and that. And Jesus approaches him and says, "I suppose you're wondering when I'm going to heal you." And James goes, "Well, if you you know if you can do it, yeah, I would like you to heal me." And he goes, "Well, you've seen what I can do. You know I can heal you." And and he basically says, "Well, why haven't you?" And he goes, "Think of it this way. I can heal you. And that would be a good story." And James goes, "Yeah, I'd tell everybody about it. I'd tell everyone that you took my pain away and healed me." And he's like, "Yes, that would be a good story. But think of this. I don't heal you, and you continue to suffer with your pain and anguish. But you know that if you keep your faith, I don't heal you. When you die and are and ascend to heaven, rise to heaven. Think of how good your reward will be and how great it would be, because even with your suffering, you can consider continue to be faithful and serve me and do the work of my Father. That you do this because you know your reward in heaven will be greater." And this would be a greater story to tell. So people sit there and say, "Oh, I am in pain. I have this, I have that. I'm in constant pain. Why hasn't God healed me?" He could, and He can. But, you pray and pray and pray, and He doesn't heal you. You ever stop to think, it's not that He can't heal you or He doesn't want to heal you. Maybe He doesn't heal you because He wants you to remain faithful to Him and show people that even though you're suffering, you're willing to suffer because you know your reward will be even greater. So think about it. If He doesn't answer your prayer right away, and He doesn't heal you, don't condemn Him. Appreciate it. Thank Him for it. Because one, it'll make you stronger spiritually and physically on the aspect, you're enduring this great pain, even though he can take it away in an instant. But you're letting it stay and are willing to accept it because you're with your faith and love in him is strong enough that when you get to heaven, every day you've suffered, every second you've suffered, every time you've cried in pain, every time you stumbled and fallen because of this pain, every time depending on what the pain is, got sick, vomited, whatever the pain is, he's writing this all down. He's keeping document of every tear of pain you've suffered, every ache you've suffered, and he's going to tally it all up. And eventually, when you get to heaven, the more you've suffered, the greater your reward will be. So, be humble, have humility, and thank God for his faith in you, because he knows your faith in him is strong enough that you're willing to endure that pain. Because then, in the long run, your reward for it will be greater than anything on earth. I have aches and pains. I've had pain where I couldn't sit. I had to lay down and I couldn't lay certain ways because of it. He knows. Yes, he took it away and let it go away on its own. Didn't heal it right away. But he let it take its natural course. And that whole pain and suffering was written down. It's added into the book. Basically, like a scorekeeper. He suffered for this. He suffered for that. He suffered through this. He suffered through that. He endured this. He endured that. His reward is going to be great. Which also falls under the story also of Lazarus and the rich man. Quick and short and sweet of it was the rich man never had anything bad happen to him in his whole life. He was a rich, stuck-up, cruel man. And there was Lazarus, sick, poor, had diseases, was starving. They were both old men by this time. And Lazarus grabbed onto the rich man's robe and said, "Sir, I'm starving." And the rich man goes, "How dare you grab my clothes? Oh, do you want me unclean when I go into the temple? Your touch has made this unclean." And Lazarus, ashamed of himself for dirtying the rich man's robe, pulls his hand away. He says, "I'm just starving. I pray that I can eat the scraps that get the scraps that have fallen off your table." And Lazarus says to him, "The scraps that fall from my table, but then what will my dogs eat?" And he takes off his robe and he hands it to his servant and tells him, "Burn this. It's unclean." He's made it unclean. Then he goes to a party and that. He celebrates with his 5 brothers. And then shortly after, Lazarus and the rich man die. rich man wakes up and he's in a horrible place. There's fire everywhere. Everything is hot. His mouth is dry, unbearably dry. He can't bear it. And he gets up, and there's flames everywhere. And he's in chains. And he looks across and he sees Lazarus awakening and being greeted by Abraham. And Lazarus goes, "Is that you, Abraham?" And he goes, "Yes, it is I, Abraham." And he says, "Finally, I get to meet you." And he says, "Well, where am I?" And he goes, "Come, you are home. Come with me. We are going to a banquet the Father has made in your honor." And as Abraham starts leading Lazarus in through the gates of heaven, the rich man hollers out, "Abraham, help me!" And he's in chains, and I'm assuming they do a video, but I'm assuming it's a lot worse than what they do in the video. And he says, "Abraham, let Lazarus, I know Lazarus, I've seen him. Let Lazarus dip his finger in the water and come over and just allow one droplet of the water to fall on my tongue, for I am so thirsty." And Abraham says, "That's not allowed. You cannot come over here, and we cannot come over there. No one can." And he says, Why am I here? Why am I suffering?" And Lazarus says, or Abraham says, "Well, when you were alive, nothing bad happened to you. You didn't suffer at all. In fact, you were rich and powerful. Lazarus, he suffered. All his bad things that happened to him has happened. They're all done. He isn't suffering anymore. You never suffered, so you're suffering now." Moral of this, and Jesus told the story to, I can't remember who, but you stop thinking about it. He's right. Lazarus kept his faith, suffered unbearably. Disease, abuse, starvation, hunger, thirst. But his faith in God never wavered. He died most likely from the diseases in his body and from malnourishment, and even maybe most likely dehydration. The rich man, he died in a nice cushy bed, surrounded by his brothers and his family. So when you stop thinking about it, remember what Jesus said. It is easier for you to lead a camel through the eye of a needle than it is to get a rich man into heaven. Why? Because they've gotten their rewards. They don't need God. They all turn away from God. A few rich people, yes, are rich because of God, and they will still get rewarded. But I guarantee you, their suffering was probably one of great suffering, and then God blessed them. And they thank Him every day. And then some of them are rich that didn't deserve salvation, but then they turned to God and they accepted Jesus as their Savior, and they will get to heaven. But in the long run, the moral of the story is keep your faith in God. And remember, the more you suffer and the worse it is, and the worse your life is, the greater your reward in heaven will be. I'll suffer. I'll deal with the pains of this world. Remember also, this isn't home. This is just a stop on the way to home. Be kind to each other. Pray for each other. Love one another, especially your enemies. Love them and pray for them as you would for your family. And keep faith in Jesus. Bye.